There was a time when maps did not show the world. They only showed what people believed existed. Beyond that, there was nothing. No roads, no cities, no certainty, only fear and imagination. And in those empty spaces, legends were born. At the center of one of the greatest empires ever built stood a man who did not fear the unknown. Cambyses II, the King of Kings. He ruled the vast lands of the Achaemenid Empire, a power that stretched across continents, from fertile valleys to endless deserts. He was not just a ruler, he was the son of Cyrus the Great, a name that echoed through history, a legacy that demanded greatness. But inheriting power is not the same as earning it. Every decision he made was measured against a legend. Every victory was compared to the past. And slowly, something began to change inside him. Then came Egypt, a kingdom of gods and ancient power, and he conquered it. With Egypt under his control, he stood at the peak of power. There were no more rivals, no more limits. Only one question remained. What comes next for a man who has everything? The answer came from the desert, a place feared by all, a place where entire caravans vanished. Deep within that desert stood a temple, an oracle, a place believed to hold divine power. But this was not just a destination, it was a challenge to the gods themselves. And so, he made a decision, one that would echo through history. He would send an army, 50,000 men, into the desert. They marched forward, into the unknown, confident, disciplined, unstoppable. But none of them would ever return. At first, the march looked ordinary. 50,000 soldiers, disciplined, organized, confident. For an empire like the Achaemenid Empire, this was not an impossible mission. It was another campaign, or so they believed. Because history often hides disaster behind routine beginnings. Confidence can be dangerous, especially in unfamiliar landscapes. Armies are trained to fight enemies, but deserts are not enemies you can see. They wait, silent, patient, and often they win. The deeper they moved, the world changed. Landmarks disappeared, directions blurred. The sun became both guide and threat, and every mile forward made retreat less possible. In war, power is measured in armies. In the desert, power is measured in water. And already, that balance was shifting. Rations grew precious, silence grew heavier, and fear began moving among the ranks. Ancient desert caravans followed a rule: never challenge the desert, move with it, never against it. But conquering empires often ignore old wisdom, and arrogance has buried many armies. Then came the first signs. The wind changed. Not stronger, different. The air felt strange, older, as if the desert itself was waking. Imagine commanding thousands while realizing nature may be in control. That is a different kind of terror. No enemy to charge, no fortress to seize, only uncertainty. And uncertainty breaks discipline faster than swords. Some say scouts saw it first. A moving wall on the horizon. Not clouds, sand, an advancing force, nature's army. Fear spreads faster than storms. A few men panic, then many. Order begins to crack. And once discipline breaks in the desert, survival becomes chance. Then it hit, not like weather, like annihilation. Sand erased vision, breath, direction. Sound itself seemed swallowed. Some may have run, some may have buried themselves. Some may have prayed, but against a storm large enough, none of it mattered. The desert did not defeat them, it consumed them. And then, Silence. No survivors returned. No final report. No witness. Only absence. And sometimes, absence is the loudest mystery. Or was the storm only a legend? Because history has another habit. It hides truth behind stories. And sometimes myths cover darker realities. What if the army was not destroyed by nature, but by something else? Something human. Something hidden. For centuries, people repeated the same explanation. A sandstorm. An army buried by nature. Simple. Clean. Almost too clean. Because history often prefers elegant stories over messy truths. And sometimes, the story everyone believes is the story least examined. What if the desert did not erase the army? What if someone did? Let us begin with the most famous theory. A catastrophic sandstorm, not ordinary weather, a wall of destruction. Some modern researchers argue it was possible. A massive Cambyses, hot desert winds violent enough to erase entire columns of men. And in an environment where orientation dies first, panic finishes the rest. Could 50,000 men simply have vanished into moving sand? Perhaps, but many historians ask, where are the remains? A theory survives, only as long as questions stay quiet. And there were questions. A storm may kill, but erase 50,000 soldiers. Weapons, armor, animals, supply lines. Complete disappearance demands extraordinary explanation. And extraordinary explanations invite darker possibilities. What if the army was not lost, but destroyed? Some believe the force reached hostile territory and was attacked. An ambush, not by gods, by men. Imagine exhausted soldiers, low on water, far from reinforcements, walking into prepared resistance. That would not be mystery. That would be massacre. There is something historians rarely discuss: humiliation. Empires do not preserve defeat honestly. They rewrite it. Could the desert swallowed them have been political cover, a myth to hide military disaster? Because for rulers, losing an army to enemies is shame. Losing it to nature is fate. And fate is easier to forgive. Another theory is stranger. What if they were lost long before the final catastrophe? Not destroyed in one moment, but slowly, fragment by fragment, through thirst, heat, mutiny, disintegration. An army doesn't always die dramatically. Sometimes it simply unravels. Then came modern intrigue. Reports surfaced of possible buried remains, weapons, human bones, ancient military artifacts. Some claimed the lost army had been found, but evidence remained disputed. Proof slipped back into mystery, as it always had. But there is one darker possibility. What if the army survived? For a time. Stranded. Forgotten. Abandoned. Imagine knowing your empire will never come. Imagine dying not in battle, but in silence. That possibility may be more terrifying than the storm. Maybe this legend endures because it reflects something ancient in us. Fear of disappearance. Fear of leaving no trace. 50,000 men. Gone. Not remembered individually, only as a question. And perhaps that is why the story refuses to die. But what if there was one final clue, one piece of evidence that could change everything, and it may still be buried, right now, under the sand, waiting? For centuries, the story remained just that, a story, a warning whispered across generations, an army sent into the desert and never seen again. But modern history has a different nature. It does not accept mystery easily. It investigates, questions, digs, and sometimes it finds things that were never meant to be found. In the early 21st century, a claim emerged, bold, controversial, potentially historic. A group of researchers believed they had found traces of the lost army, bones, weapons, fragments of something ancient, something Persian. But evidence is never simple, especially in the desert. Wind moves everything. Sand buries truth and reshapes it. What appears to be one story may belong to another, and what we want to find often shapes what we believe we see. Many historians remained skeptical. The findings were incomplete, the conclusions too certain. And in archaeology, certainty without proof is dangerous, because once a theory becomes popular, it becomes harder to question. There is something powerful about wanting to solve a mystery, to be the one who finds the answer, the one who proves history wrong. But that desire can blur judgment, because discovery is not just about evidence, it is about interpretation. And interpretation is human. The desert is vast, unforgiving, endless. Even today, large areas remain unexplored, which raises a possibility, both exciting and unsettling. What if the army is still there, not destroyed completely, not discovered, just waiting? Sand does not behave like Earth. It moves, breathes, shifts over time. Entire landscapes can change within years, which means what was buried may not stay buried, and what is hidden today may surface tomorrow. Most historical mysteries fade. This one didn't, because it has everything: scale, disappearance, silence, and the most powerful element of all, the unknown. Was it a storm, an ambush, a slow death across the desert, or something else entirely? A truth lost between myth and memory. Because sometimes the greatest mystery is not what happened, but why. We still don't know. After centuries of speculation, we are left with one question. What really happened to the army of Cambyses II? Was it nature, war, or something far more complex? Because sometimes the truth is not a single event, but a chain of failures. The storm theory may explain the end, but not the beginning. The ambush theory may explain destruction, but not disappearance. And the slow collapse theory explains human weakness, but not total silence. Perhaps the answer is uncomfortable, because it is not simple. It is all of them. History often focuses on events, but it forgets people. 50,000 individuals, each with fear, doubt, instinct, and survival decisions. Armies are strong until they stop thinking as one. And once that happens, they are no longer an army. They are just men, lost. The desert does not fight. It waits. It removes direction, weakens the body, confuses the mind, and then it lets humans destroy themselves. This is not a battle. It is erosion, slow, invisible, unstoppable. So why is there no clear evidence? Because deserts preserve and destroy at the same time. What is buried too deep remains hidden. What is exposed too long disappears completely. And over centuries, even history itself fades. But the real reason this story survives is not the mystery. It is what it represents. The fear of being forgotten, of disappearing without a trace, of leaving no story behind. Because in the end, this is not just their story, it is ours. Most battles are remembered, victories recorded, defeats explained. But this was different. No glory, no witness, only silence. And silence is the most powerful storyteller of all. Somewhere beneath the desert, they may still be there, not as soldiers, but as a question, waiting to be answered, or perhaps never meant to be. Because not all mysteries are solved, and not all stories have endings. If you want to explore more stories that history tried to hide, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because the past is full of mysteries still waiting to be discovered.